doing the hybridization programs. And that's what I'm involved in. Maybe in the future I'll see others, but I've been on a lot of different spaceships and have not seen any. I've been on, the reptilians, the Arcturians, have been on the Palladians, and a lot of species that we don't really know about. And I've not seen any hybridization programs going on there, but it could be that this spaceship is that's their main function, is the hybridization program. So that is that main function, even though a lot of what work I did when I first went on there was, as I said, taking out implants and helping people get through negative implants and working with their chakras, and we did a lot of light therapy. I was adjusting their hormones and chemistry, and also people who were having some psychological issues. We had things that we could put on their head that would light up and change their brain chemistry, or their maybe the electrical system of the brain, and it would change that. And these were a lot of people who were depressed, who were suicidal, who could not shake these kind of things. That's when what I was very involved with in the very beginning. And also that's also what I did when I went on the Athena, was a lot of that work too, because we had a lot of children who went through trauma through some of these wars, and we would change their brain waves so they would remember the trauma, but it would not affect them like it affects us, like physically, mentally. We would change the brain waves so they could actually function in life. They would remember the incident, but it would not affect them. So there's a lot of good things they do.
Okay. Now, when you were removing the implants, can you talk about the different locations that you found them, and maybe even what their purpose was?
Well, the ones I was removing were the negative implants. There's a lot of positive implants, and the positive implants is people getting direct information from either their star family or whoever they've agreed to work with. But the negative ones are the ones that we've got gifted people who they're wanting not to use their gifts, and they'll stick in these implants. The most common place is in the pineal gland, which is accesses the back of the neck, and also it would be anywhere on the body. We had a machine that looked like an X-ray machine that we would scan the body for these implants that we would take out, and then incinerate them in a little jar that just automatically incinerated them. But that's usually what it was. It's usually these gifted people that were being held back, and after we could get rid of the implants, they immediately would jump up a level and be okay, and their gifts would start coming out and being able to use it. That's usually what we were doing.
Okay. Now, are you aware if the nature of these programs have shifted over time? Because I know earlier there was like a lot of abductions that people were talking about. You don't hear about that as much anymore. So has the program shifted?
No, it's not. Well, a little bit, I would say, shifted. I think it would be awareness, because before, they don't have the same kind of emotions we do. They did not know they were affecting us like they were when they were doing those things. So they look at those so-called abductions as their dark history, like our dark history is slavery. So they consider that their dark history. They didn't understand all the emotions that humans had, and so they are better equipped and able to deal with that now.
I've also heard that a lot of times the mantis will accompany the grays during these processes, because they're able to kind of like exude these vibrational frequencies that begin to put people at ease. Have you witnessed that?
Yeah, very much so. And that's whenever I see somebody who's getting ready to go up the spaceship to have a medical procedure, it always seems to be a mantis being and two grays that are escorting them. The grays have an easier time coming down to 3D, where the mantis beings struggle to get down to that. So they're assisted by the Greys to be able to bring them up to the spaceship. And then when they get to the spaceship and they're in a different dimension, that's when the mantis beings can really take over and calm the person down.
Okay. Yeah, I've got so many questions that's going through my mind. I know earlier you talked about the soul and how you would move one soul from one body into the other. Can you describe that process and how that's even possible?
Well, it's very possible for them. The soul actually moves above them. Like when their bodies, when they're going to stay in their body and they're rejuvenating the body, it's almost like a whirlpool that they're in with all these things, and they're laying on their side, and you're looking down at yourself when that's happening. You're watching yourself heal. And so whenever it's healed, then they move the consciousness back in. How they do that, I'm not real sure. It seems like I was always taking care of the psychological one. They were always calling me going, this guy's freaking out, I'm helpless. But they did have the cloning machines too. So if that body was not able to be fixed or redone, they were also cloning the body just in case they needed to put the consciousness in that body.
Okay, I remember we had a speaker once who was talking, I can't think, Susie, I think you read the books too. Is it the Theobians? I think that's how.
Theobian prophecy.
Yeah, the Theobians. Just wanted to make sure I was saying that right. You know, the Theobians had a process where they would kind of astrally project the soul out of the body, and it could be walking around the ship while the body itself was receiving healing or upgrades or whatever was happening. And so I was just kind of curious if this was a similar process.
It is a similar process, but they're required to stay above their body. Because it is a hospital spaceship. They would be walking into all sorts of kind of traumas that they wouldn't need to see.
Right, okay. Yeah, because this gentleman who had gone on the Theobian ship actually was, I guess, receiving a quick galactic lesson and galactic history. So while they were working on the body, they were also trying to educate him, and he was actually able to move about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that probably wasn't on, that was probably just doing that.
The Theobians.
Yeah, and probably on a much smaller ship that